What is up, and welcome to the Maker Brain Show. Today we're going to be doing something a little bit different. I'm going to be building from start to as far as I can get in 2 hours a laptop mount arm thing, and this is going to mount a cardboard stand onto a VESA arm so that I can hold my laptop. That's the one that you can see right here up in the air on an arm. So I've already done a few steps of the process, and I've gotten the planning out, and I've done some research, and I have collected my materials. And now I'm just going to build it, and you can follow along as you want. You can skip through the video and try to find any little tidbits that will help you out as much as possible. If you want to build this very thing, then this is a great video to have for you. Maybe you're going to want to speed it up to like 2 times speed or something to really get through all of it. So I can see some of the planning I did here, and it's not perfect. I didn't lay out every single possible detail, but I gave myself a lot of things that I can look at. And now I'm going to start out by building the base just to make sure it'll fit my laptop. I've got some dimensions around that, and we can get started with that. Yeah, but the base has to have these nuts in it, so I'm going to grab those first. And I had them over here in one of my drawers. Okay. Here we go. I got the nuts and the bolts that I'm going to use so that we can get those working for us. And this is going to be a little bit more of a tricky project because I'm not able to actually reference my laptop because it's being used to live stream. And I'm going to make that base out of, we've got a couple layers. We'll make it out of a double layer piece of cardboard. Now we'll make it out of a nice big single layer. Alright. And I got a bunch of water on my table. So, this single layer piece of cardboard is got to be 14.75 inches across and 10.5 inches deep based on the drawing we have here. And I'm going to make that slightly smaller to accommodate the sides, which are going to be out of a double layer thick piece of cardboard. So I'll pick that cardboard that I'll be using for that. I'm using this box here for my sides. It is roughly a 1/4 of an inch thick. Yeah, so we can roll with that 1/4 inch measurement, which means that I'll need my measurements down here from my paper, the 14.75 and the 10.5. 14.75 is going to lose 2/4 because it's got to come off of both sides. So that's going to become 14.25, and the 10.5 is just going to become 10 inches. Alright, and for these big cuts I like to use my box cutter, but first we're going to need to draw our lines, and I'll use a pen for that. So if you're just joining, what's up, Goat Reviews? We are creating an entire laptop stand as much as we can in this single video. We're going to see how far we get in 2 hours, and then from there, we might do a second part too. Thanks for being here and chilling out. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them in the chat and I'll answer them as I go. All right. So back here, we have our cardboard that I'm going to cut out, and we'll see how this goes. So I'll actually pull this arm around for you. I'm going to start my cuts from, I'll put them up in one of the corners. Let's go here. If I put my 10 inches, and remember we can always make things a little smaller. So there's this crease here, which is going to make the cardboard a little bit weak and kind of funky if I go all the way to that edge. There's also a crease here. So I'm actually going to cut this piece out a little bit away from those creases so I get nice clean edges. This I want to be as straight as possible, so I'm going to line up one side of the ruler with the crease so I can still use it to get a straight line. Alright, and now I also have in this drawing the direction I want the grain to be going, so we're going to have to turn that. All right. What's up? Yeah, I forgot to change the camera. Boom. And that's the tricky part about being live. And so from here, I have that cardboard on the ground. I've drawn my lines out on it, and now I'm going to cut it out with my box cutter, and that's going to be the base size. It's kind of tricky because there's not enough room on my desk to do this. All right, so we just came back around. I've got my base piece of cardboard cut out, and I wanted the grain going the long ways along this, and that just sort of helps it. It's going to be a little bit stronger that way. Yeah, so you can see the way I was cutting it out there was a little bit different than I might suggest. I was sort of holding it up in the air, and that was just to make sure I got all the way through. I was trying not to cut into the other side of the cardboard that was underneath it. From here, I really need to figure out what the best process for building these parts is. So there's going to be a specific order usually to building things that is the best. So if we look down here, I'm going to quickly make a list on the side of like the things that need to be made in order. So I'm going to start out with this base plate. And then next we'll move to, I think making the sides is the next best move. And then after that, I think we should make the ribs. And then while we're making the ribs, we're going to make the mount. Actually, I think the mount, I'm going to make the mount before I even make the sides. The mount should be the next thing we make. And then after that, we need to make we're going to fill it with sand because it needs to be heavy in order to actually work. So base, mount, ribs, base, mount, side, ribs, sand. And then all that's left is the top. So, and then the last step after that, there's a little holder thing I want to put on it. for a hub. So now I know what order I'm going to go things through. So I'll have to take my base cardboard. I'm going to put the nice cardboardy side out. And we'll figure out how to make this mount. Alright, I don't have the hole patterns up perfectly. So I need to trace these holes on, and I'm gonna have to use the mount that my camera's actually on right now, because that's the only available one. And down here we're gonna have our base cardboard, has holes in it, then 2 layers of cardboard. We're going to need some super glue, and then just a thin layer of chipboard to prevent the sand from getting back through those holes once we fill it with sand. So I'm going to need like a small piece of cardboard, and we'll use this, you might use this instead of using the 2 layers that I had looked at earlier. It is just a little bit thicker than the nut, which is perfect. Now, how big do I want this spot to be? I'm gonna have to trace it out. So I'm gonna have to take this camera down and mount it elsewhere. Okay, boom, 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 boom. And we'll flop some settings around so that I'm not upside down. Boom. Alright, so this is just sort of like a bendy arm stand, so it takes a second to get set up. You're going to watch me back over here, and what I'm going to be doing is tracing out the arm mount currently right behind the computer screen. Back here. Alright. Yeah, I'll just put that here on the middle of this piece. All right. Now, cool. Do I have my audio? Let's jump into the settings. Audio. Sweet. We might have been muted there for a minute. So, I've got my cutout now, and I'm going to trace, find the best way to put these on now. So I'm going to cut those holes out, and we'll make some measurements around there. Although they don't really line up with each other, so something must be wrong. We'll cut them out and see how it looks, and then move from there. We are making a DIY cardboard VESA arm laptop mount. It's kind of a long name. Basically a laptop mount that'll go on an arm. And it takes a little bit of skill. We're just going from start to finish as far as we can. Yes, I do need a bigger cutting mat. Perhaps that mammoth one that you've got. I just got to put it on my desk. This one I also actually, during my heat gun review video, I wasn't paying attention and I warped the cutting mat. I just blasted it with heat, so that didn't work out for me. It's funny because my desk is actually huge. Can accommodate a giant mat. It's like 32 inches across or something. No, it's more than that. Like 4 feet across. These holes need to be able to fit these screws. Okay. This double layer cardboard is some stuff that I acquired from my work, because they have a ton of cardboard boxes, because it's a manufacturing facility. They get a bunch of parts shipped in, and they almost all are in like these double layer boxes. Yeah, Goat Reviews wrecked a cutting mat with solder. I imagine that could happen, because it just drips down on it. I use it to protect my desk too, because this is where I do like all of my work. So normally there's like a big keyboard up here for video editing. We're going to spin the knife, give us a round hole. Not the cleanest thing in the world, but it gets me the hole shape I want. And the screw does fit through. I think I'm going to leave it at a nice tight fit like that. Sweet. Goat Reviews, do you work with electronics very much? Soldering stuff? That is, electronics is definitely an area that I don't have a ton of experience working with. So, I'm hoping to get more experience in that realm through some of the college classes I'm taking. Okay. I'm actually going to need longer screws. Oh wait, no I won't. So now what I'm going to do is test this fit now that I've got 2 holes and see if those are the right space apart. And then from there I can lock those in place by using my screws and then retrace the other holes in case those need to be realigned. Yeah, I think I would like soldering. So, goat reviews. Yeah, it's easy to get soldering iron. It's cheap. Sweet. Yeah. Um, I know that there's lead in some of them. I've done a little bit of soldering, so uh, obviously need to avoid the bad solders. Yeah, it seems really rewarding. I just don't. I like don't even have anything that I could any like kit stuff for soldering like that. But it definitely something I'm looking out to do. So I'm gonna go head back up to the mount arm. There we go. That's locked in place. And I can make sure my other holes line up. They are actually pretty good. I'm going to use a different color to mark them again. This is one important step you always want to pay attention to when you're crafting projects, is being able to have it be more versatile and working in steps when especially when it's a bigger, more complicated project and you're not totally sure what every step is going to involve. So for this one, right, I made the 2 holes and then I was able to double check that they all worked by making 2 more holes and like realigning it, or making 2 more markings after plugging it back in. We don't want to lock ourselves into like a big effort and then realize we have to redo it all. So take things in small steps, especially when you're working with other components that have to be able to integrate into it, like we are today. Down here, I'm going to cut out these 2 other holes marked with the red dots, and then they should all be lining up just right. I'm realizing a mistake I'm making right now, actually. Down here, this part actually needs the entire nut to set into it. Our nut's set in here. The screws come from behind the plate, behind the VESA plate. So the screws go through our base piece of cardboard that we cut out earlier, and they'll set into our nuts. And the nuts have to sit in here. Now the thing I'm doing right now is I'm making these holes so then I can transfer these holes onto my base piece in just the spot that I want, and then make these big enough for my nuts to sit in so the bolts can come from underneath and secure those. And we might not get to it today, but we want to do a couple hardening techniques on this because it's going to be a lot of torque on just a little spot on our cardboard. So I'm considering coating it in super glue. You've probably seen that before in videos. Or you can actually use baking soda and super glue, and then it creates like a really hard compound that can hold things really well. So we'll keep going here with these holes. So this is a spin technique to make our holes. You can also always use any of the other techniques. I've got a video out on this. If you search how to cut small holes in cardboard, then you will run into that video. As always, if you're on the live stream, feel free to drop your questions in the chat, and I will answer those in this video. Also, if you're hanging out here and you're looking at getting a bigger cutting mat than mine, Goat Reviews has a video on that that you can check out as well for a very large cutting mat. That hole needs to be a little bigger. Where'd my other screw go? Okay. Some of these things that I'm sharing with you are things I've learned over years of crafting. Other things come from my experience being on a robotics team for 4 years, where we built 120-pound competition robots. And those would do cool stuff. So I've got this pattern out. I'm going to do one last check to see if it still fits on that VESA plate. And then from there, we will trace these holes out onto our base cardboard and then cut this down to size. So I'll change the camera angle over here. And let's go. It fits perfectly. Let's go. So that fits nicely. Now I'm going to figure out what kind of pattern shape I want on here. It needs to be wide enough to give a decent bit of reinforcement. What we're doing here too is we're following the 5-step cardboard creation action plan, and we're really just in the build phase right now, which is the longest phase. We did our thinking and our researching and our planning already, so we're building, and then later you can always iterate on your project, and that's step number 5. So we're here at 4. I'm gonna find how long I want this. Weirdly, these holes are not all... They're actually all slightly off to the side, so it's not perfectly square like to my cardboard. These are square, but they're rotated slightly. Add we got plenty of space, so I'm going to actually add 2 inches off of all the sides. If you're ever curious about some of the most important tools when you're crafting with cardboard, there's a link in the description below to my cardboard crafting starter tool guide. That is all the tools that I think are the most essential for starting out crafting beautiful projects from cardboard. And you don't even need all those, you really just need a cardboard and a knife. But those give you a wide variety of options that you can work with. So I got my dots, now I'm just going to connect all those. This particular ruler has a roller in the back and a little angle measurement in the middle. It's designed to also be able to read measurements by rolling forward and backward, which is pretty cool. I almost never use that, and it's not the most accurate thing in the world. But this ruler also has some other nice features, like all the measurements have little holes along with them, so you can make dots just at the right spot for your measurement. That doesn't look like 2 inches. There guess it is. There are actually a couple different ways to make connected straight lines in your cardboard. So I have a video on that too. I got videos on a lot of things. So Goat Reviews asks, what did the robotics competition involve building? So those, it was through basically a sport. It was a high school robotics competition, and the organization that did it is called FIRST, stands for Inspiration and Recognition of Science and Technology. And what they would do is every year, the first week, the first Saturday, that's not a holiday of the year. So this year it was January 7th, they have kickoff, and on kickoff they reveal the competition, the challenge that the robots will have to complete. And it's basically almost always on a basketball court-sized field, and the robots will actually compete in alliances of 3 robots that you learn to build things that will be able to complement other robots. And then they'll do some kind of challenge over the course of a 3-minute match. And at the beginning of the match, it's actually got to be all coded and totally autonomous. And then for 2 minutes and 15 seconds is like the regular phase, and the last 15 seconds you got to do some special challenge for the end of the game, like climbing up something. And so this year there's the challenges. We got to have a bunch of like cones and then like these inflatable cube things that we have to be able to stack on top of pegs and shelves on our side of the wall. So we work as an alliance with 2 other robots that are just randomly picked at the competition we're at. There's usually about 40 teams at each competition. And then try to stack as many of those back there as we can. And then you end the game by balancing with your alliance partners on top of like a balancing table shelf thing. And you'll get more points that way. Once all that's done, there's like playoffs, and there's states, and then there's everything. And that's pretty cool. So this year the robot's going to be like pretty tall and have like a double pivot arm to reach and grab stuff. And it's going to use a lot of pneumatics, which are just like air-powered cylinders to go in and out. So this year I'm not actually on the robotics team as a student. I'm technically like a mentor of the robotics team. And I come on Saturdays because I work every other night. And try to help people have good ideas. We have about 6 weeks to build the robot. And then a couple weeks of competitions. And people on robotics teams meet like every night from 4 to whenever. 4 to 9. Sweet, I'm getting close to cutting this out here. It's not perfectly accurate, but this particular piece is just going to sit inside of something, so it doesn't need to be dead on. There we go. I got the size I wanted for this plate. We'll make these holes bigger in a minute, but first we have to transfer all of them over to our original base plate, and then we'll be able to make these holes big enough for the nuts to sit in, and our base plate will have holes big enough for the screws to go through. And then once we have all this, we can cut out the sides of our cardboard stand and work from there. Back down here at the table, we have this laid out on here, and I want to make sure that it's spaced out just right. So I'll use my ruler. Right, actually this is a better job for my 10-inch ruler, 6-inch ruler. We'll go 4 inches from this side. Try 3.5. Getting pretty close. There's other ways to center things too. You could put a mark in the middle of this piece and then just line up the middle, but I'm gonna go with this today. Gonna go down slightly. Make sure it's level. Okay, so we got about 3 5/8 on each side, and about 1.5 inches we actually got to go down a little bit on the top and bottom. Okay, I'll trace this outer edge so that I can line it up again. This is all going to be inside, so I don't really worry about any of the marks I add to it. And now I want to mark these holes. There we go. Now these holes are the things that are going to line up and mount onto the VESA plate. So these need to be one of the most precise parts of our cardboard model. So we got to be careful with them. And one of the reasons we use this as like a template first is because we're going to have to have these holes in here anyway, but then also it was easier to hold up a small piece and trace the holes on, and then I could cut the square around this to whatever size I wanted, which was really helpful because it turned out it was slightly off, and it was easier to do that than to hold up this perfectly and line up all the holes perfectly right off the start. The folding utility knife is one that is pretty common on Amazon if you can find. So Goat Reviews asks, what is that folding utility knife? Can we get a closer look? Now this folding utility knife is, I think it was bought at a store. I can't find it on Amazon particularly, but there's tons of models like it where you just have a push button on the side and then it'll drop in. And it's not spring loaded, it's just a really loose fit. So I have learned to push the button in and then you can just use your wrist to pop it in and out, which is really cool. And then the blade replacement's really fast too. You can just push down this little button here and then slide the blade out or slide it back in. So I really like using this one. It's my favorite one. I have another one. It's a little bit smaller and thinner, so if I go and like do some work where I need to bring a utility knife with me, I like to do this one. But this one is just spring loaded, so you gotta bring it out and then it locks in place, right? And then you gotta push the little thing at the bottom down like a normal locking knife, and then you can fold it back in. There's links to these in my cardboard crafting tools starter guide. I don't want to cut those out. So yeah. Sometimes I get a little long-winded in my explanations, which is why video editing is great. Coming out soon on the MakerBrain YouTube channel, I believe tomorrow I have it scheduled for, I'll have a video about how to unjam your hot glue gun without taking it apart. So that will be a neat video. It's about 4 minutes long and gives you some quick tips on that. Sometimes you do have to take your hot glue gun apart to fix it though, or sometimes it's just really bad, really broken. Boom. Boom. Alright. Do the screws fit through? It's a little bit of a tight fit on that one. I doubt it's going to fit here. That's also really tight. But I can force them through, and I think I'm going to keep that close fit. And then we still have enough screw on here at the back to make sure that we can still thread the nut on, which is great. There's actually going to be one more layer, right? The thickness of the VESA plate has to go between these screw heads and this piece of cardboard, so they'll be backed out a little bit more, but now we know that we have enough space. It's time to make these holes a bit wider for these nuts to fit in, and the fastest way to do that I think is going to be to try the same spinning method, but now I'm going to use a bigger knife. So this one has a wide angle on the blade, and we can take out more cardboard that way. The cool thing about this method is that it's going to keep those holes pretty much centered on the same spot, which is really something I need here because they need to line up with the screws. Still got to get quite a bit bigger. I think that's pretty good. We'll take out just a little bit more. I definitely want these to be pretty pressure fit in there, so I can go little bits at a time. For this VESA arm cardboard DIY stand, Goat Reviews, I'll have you know that you are the dedicated viewer of the day, because everybody else comes and leaves. I watch them on the little like eyeball counter, and I'll see it pop up to like, oh, there's 2 people watching, and then they leave. But you are still here. Thank you, my man. Always encouraging to have people watching, although I would do it anyway. Definitely more satisfying to know that someone is paying attention. Alright, we got one of them sunk into there. Fire, that's right. And Goat Reviews, I'm actually interested. I've been thinking about doing collaborations on my YouTube channel more, so if you're interested in doing some kind of collaboration with me in a future video of some kind, maybe just sharing some like tips about something, you can head to the About page on my YouTube channel, and if you email makerbrain.eli@gmail.com, I can reply to you, and I think we could get something started with a collaboration video of some kind, and that would be super cool. Also, Goat Reviews, your logo is just really cool. Now, sometimes this method feels really slow, and you're going to just have to take it slow, but it keeps it centered, and I can make sure I get a really good sized hole and a tension fit. I already got some great ideas, Goat Reviews. That is awesome. So if you're some other viewer, one of the 0 other people that are watching, then some future video might have a cool collaboration. Yeah. All right. I will have some good luck with the rest of the build. I probably won't finish it today. We might make a part 2 of this live stream. And these are all going to be stored in a playlist of like complete builds that's on my YouTube channel if anybody ever feels like watching long, boring live streams. All right. Have a blessed day. Goat Reviews. There we go. We got a second nut set well in there. Let me know in the comments below if you would like to see a video about how to insert screws into cardboard, because that's something I've done a couple of times, and we're doing it in this project, so I could break it down into some simple tips for you and create a video on that. And if you want to see that, I would be happy to make it. Alright, we've got this done. Check the fit of our other nut. Alright, that's a little still too small. We'll cut out a little bit more. And these nuts I collected ahead of time because it's always helpful to have your stuff ready. And I checked all this. I did it quite a while ago when I was originally planning on this project. And it just goes to show that prior planning really helps you get things done faster versus me having to stop partway through this project and find all the nuts and do everything then. If I do it ahead of time, I'm well prepared with those things. I think this is a keeper. There we go. That fits in nicely. And so these are just about the same thickness as the cardboard, which is perfect. So later we'll put a piece of chipboard over top to stop those. Now, I know that the threads are gonna, if they do, they'll barely poke through the end of the nut once we have it all put together. So I'm pretty safe in putting a piece of chipboard right across the top of this. But just imagine for a second with me, we have a layer of chipboard across the top of our nut, and then we try to put a screw into it. If we screw in too far, then it'll poke through the nut and then smash into whatever on the other side, because it's a screw in and it'll have a lot of force. So in this case, I know it's probably not going to stick any further out than that, so I'm pretty safe in just putting something right across the top. Our last hole coming up here, and this is all part of the mount part of our build, which I decided was the second thing that I needed to build. It's one of the most important parts, so if it doesn't work out, it's good to know that ahead of time so I can change my plans. And that's always why you want to make sure you have a good plan in place before going into your project and just building random components in random orders. This whole plate is going to be a little bit bigger than I imagined it in my drawings, so I might have to adjust a couple other things, but I believe that now that I can look at it, I think that it needs to be pretty big. Now, here's an example where doing the spinning method doesn't always create the most perfect hole. This one is a little bit just triangular shaped, but I think it's still going to stay pretty concentric and based around the center, and once I jam a nut into it, it'll be fairly round. We're going to keep spinning out here. And just as earlier where I told Goat Reviews to go and he could send me an email at makerbrain.eli@gmail.com. If you have any questions or you want to share project ideas or anything, feel free to email me at that email and I would love to respond to you. I also answer all of the questions in my comments, so if you have any questions, you can leave them down there. I even jumped on a video chat with someone before to try to solve a problem for a school project. So I am happy to help you out in whatever ways I can, because I know that live streams like this and videos can only get you so far. Man, I'm getting close here. All right. Okay, so that one sort of fits. Dang. There we go. Here's our finished piece, and these are not just going to sit in here. I really want to super glue those in, but I don't really have any super glue right now. I did, but I found out that it was all hardened and haven't gotten it out. So we'll check on that, see if it's usable, and what we can do from there. Later in this project, we're going to have to do something really interesting where we add sand into the model in order to make it heavier. I'm going to make those screw holes slightly bigger because it looks like a couple of them came slightly out of alignment. So we're going to have to add sand in here later because the mount that I'm using requires a minimum of like 10 pounds or 5 pounds or something, and my laptop is not that heavy, so it wouldn't be able to do the like adjustment feature, so we got to add some extra weight into it. We want these holes to be a little bigger, but obviously not big enough that the nuts can slip through them. Okay, now our screws slide through nicely. We're going to test out alignment. There we go. And another screw. He's getting bound up in the nut. It's possible it's the wrong thread. Try this corner. That one went all the way in easily. Of course, we're building this out of cardboard and not like steel, so all our tolerances are pretty easy to keep, and they'll just sort of slide around if we need they'll slide around if there's a slight difference. That one went partway through, so I'm not sure what's up with this last screw and nut. Got it partway in there. Let me see if I can use a screwdriver for the rest of it. Nope, it's just going to spin the nut as well. It really feels like it's the wrong... Oh, shoot. I'm going to take it out and test it. So... I can screw partway through before it stops cold. About a turn and a half in. Does the same thing from both sides. What I'm thinking here is this nut might be it looks slightly different than the other ones also. It might be the same diameter, the same outer diameter, so the threads fit, but the pitch of the threads is different. So once the little gap gets used up, it binds up, and it's definitely not going to move any further. We'll try really cranking on this and see what happens, but I think it's probably messed up. Yeah, it's just getting tighter, which would make sense if it's the wrong pitch. Well, because we're trying to move through this project, we're going to keep going. Those two guys will wait till later, and we can build this with just 3. And it'll work out just fine. We know that that hole is the right size, though. Actually, we can't build it with 3 because we're going to need to mount this in here permanently. I'm going to quick head upstairs and try and find one more nut to match on with these other guys. And yeah, we'll see how that goes. It's funny that an hour and 5 minutes into the live stream, I just got a notification that I was live. Alright, here's your hold music while I go find this nut. I am back. Alright, so what we have right here is the one that should be the right size. And we'll see if it fits. So get that guy in there. Oh shoot, am I missing one now? Did I take one up with me? And then... Oh, come on. I brought one of the nuts up with me for reference. And, left it up there. Alright, well, we're gonna have to go find another one, and on my last look, I think I just took the last one, so we might come up with something looking slightly different. Alright, enjoy your hold music again. Back. Alright, so I got the right size nuts now. This is why we always try to prepare ahead of time. I did, but I grabbed the wrong things. So now that we have everything we need, double check that they fit. Alright, we're going to double check that they fit on the VESA arm now before moving any further, because we don't want to make mistakes and make mistakes and then have to spend forever correcting for them. So we'll just check it ahead of time. So I'll hold both these up. Boom. What's up? And there's the arm. Bring all of the pieces back and we'll see how they fit. I'm really struggling to line these up. There we go. That guy's in. No, all the other ones should be a lot easier. Alright, so we have up there, it's mounted now, and it seems pretty solid. I have the other piece down here, though. What I'm going to try to do is glue them on while they are mounted to the plate so that I know all of these things, all of the nuts are perfectly lined up. So earlier we were just dealing with cardboard and cardboard, but now that we have these metal nuts and there's a metal VESA plate that the other screws have to go through, we want the screws to be able to go through the VESA plate, right? But that leaves them less wiggle room than if they're just going through a soft piece of cardboard. So we're going to add the glue onto those nuts and then stick this plate on and then go from there with a couple other things. Stay hydrated. I'm going to check and see what's up with my hot glue, with my super glue. Super glue is going to hang on to those metal nuts a lot better than hot glue ever will. This super glue is getting really old and it's all gelled up. It used to be liquid. It doesn't really want to come out of the container, so today might be its last use. As you can see, the super glue is super viscous. I used some hot glue at the high temperature setting to get some more working time. And now I'm going to clean out around those nuts a little bit now that it's all glued on, and add a little bit more super glue on the top. I'm not sure how it's going to cure because it's old, so we'll see how that goes. Whew, that was a long pause. So right here we have all these screws. They have a little bit of super glue on the ends of them because the super glue was tacky, and I dipped it, I got it in as far as I could into those nuts, and the screws were still in there, which was actually good because it helps prevent the super glue from clogging up the threads. So I'm going to try to clear the super glue off the ends of them. And you could tell there the super glue was so gelled up inside the container that, now it's spewing some out. Now that it was extremely hard to push out, and I had to use pliers to squeeze it really hard, which really did speed up the process and made it a lot easier. If you look down here, now that I can fit back on the desk and don't have to worry about lining it all up, we have super glue around all 4 of these. On the outside, I had put super glue around the bolts before that as well. And then I hot glued the entire thing down. I had my hot glue gun on the high temperature setting to try and get it to give me a little bit more working time than I would have had otherwise. And the super glue is still quite tacky and sticky, which is a little bit of a surprise to me. I thought that even this older super glue would like actually glue, but it might never. It's still, like, that amount of super glue normally dries pretty fast. And let me just test it. Also, being this tacky means that it doesn't soak into the cardboard very much, which is a bit of a problem. Okay, so super glue definitely still dries and gets hard. That's good news for me. This live stream is going to end in 15 minutes. And so obviously we're not going to be able to finish this entire project. I will be going live with part 2 sometime before too long. And working on this same project. And as always, these playlists will be kept in a big group of playlists, and I'll make like a bunch of separate little deals for different projects that I've done, just like live for you. And we've done stuff that way. So this looks pretty good. The screws didn't poke all the way through. The next step is to get a piece of chipboard to place all the way across the top of this to seal everything in. Wary of doing that before like this all cures, because I might want to like reinforce these nuts, but I think we'll be fine. So I'm gonna go for that. So I actually don't have any chipboard. I used to, but then I used it up. So I'm going to change tack. We're just going to use some poster board. Got poster board from old drawing classes. This is going to be used to cover up the screws on there, the nuts, so that we have it nice and sealed in, because later we're going to have to weigh this whole thing down with sand, and we don't want sand to go pouring out through these holes or clog up our threads. Now, what we already did also is glue down the edges of this to make it a little bit more sealed tight, and that super glue should be holding those in pretty well. So, if you're here live, as always, you can drop your questions in the chat, and I will answer those live for you. And I'm just working through this project live. This whole replay will be available also, and it's a bit different than my normal style of video. Alright, I'm going to, instead of tracing that, because I've got glue on there, I'm just going to measure it. It's 7 inches by 7 inches square. And I'm going to cut a 7-inch by 7-inch square out of this. Now, I know that the edges of the paper are already like perfectly square, so I'm going to use those to give myself a starting point and make things move a little bit faster. I'll guess at however far 7 inches is down. And try to hold it as straight as possible. We'll go here. I'm actually going to make it 6.25, 6.25. And that is going to mean that the paper doesn't slide over the edge at all. 6.75, sorry, not 6.25. So I can connect these, make my line go all the way to 7 inches. Sorry, I'm going to make it go to 6.75 inches. And then to make sure I have a straight line, I'm also going to put a 6.75 inch mark down on this side. 6 3/4. And then we'll connect these. There's our square. We could cut this out with scissors if we wanted. I'm going to opt for a X-Acto knife instead. I got a little hot glue on my X-Acto knife earlier when I was hot gluing that base plate together. I often find that X-Acto knives are actually a little easier to make really straight lines with than scissors. And especially if you have a sharp blade, it's going to work out really well. This blade seems to be sharp, but it's not really cutting all the way through, so I'm not sure what's going on. There we go. And now we're going to go up and down. This plate is going to cover up those threaded nuts and make a nice safe connection. And then I mentioned this earlier in the live stream. If you are threading into nuts, you don't usually want to cover the back, like cover it right away, because your screw could go all the way through the nut once you screw it in and then punch through whatever backing you have on it. Now I know that my screws are barely long enough to get through the nuts, so I'm not worried about putting a backing on it. Also, if you want to make complicated cardboard projects, I do have my 5-step action guide linked in the description down below. It's towards the bottom of the description, and it's got like a plan emoji and like a party emoji in front of it. And that'll bring you to a page where you can get that emailed straight to your inbox. And then you can follow the 5-step cardboard crafting action plan, which really helps you create the best possible cardboard projects that you can make. Which is really cool. So that's what I did for this project. I followed all 5 steps in the cardboard crafting action plan, and it has really helped me create a project consistently even when I didn't have large chunks of time to work on it. Now I'm going to use my hot glue to glue this on because that'll be fast and easy, and I like using hot glue. Now, something cool that you can do is, per se, there's also some super glue on here, so that'll hold it on. I gotta rearrange my hot glue cable. It got wrapped around my light. What's cool here is, actually, if I misaligned this, I've also got a heat gun. I could heat up all that hot glue and then move it around and realign it. I'm going to turn the hot glue back to the high setting so it'll get a little bit hotter, but it won't make a huge difference here because I'm not giving it enough time to heat all the way up. And I'm going to put the glue on here because I don't want to go over top of my super glue, and then just make sure I don't go all the way to the edges. Now you might notice that, yeah, I don't know if that super glue is actually ever going to cure. It should cure faster than this. You might notice that I have the clean side of this cardboard actually on the inside, which is a little bit of a bummer. I meant to have this logo thing on the inside, so I'm just going to have to deal with that now. I should have paid more attention to which side of the cardboard I was putting in or out. I'm going to glue down these corners a little bit more where the glue didn't get all the way there. I'm flipping my glue gun back to the low setting so that I don't have to worry about burning my fingers as much. So when I push this down, some of the glue leaks out of the edges. I'm actually going to use my finger to quickly swipe it to the side, and we'll get a little bit of a cleaner look that way. Of course, this is all going to be actually sealed inside of our laptop stand for our arm. So it doesn't matter that much what it looks like. Doesn't matter at all, actually. Now, just to ensure I have a really strong seal and none of the sand gets through, I'm going to go all the way around this with a quick bead of hot glue. Just beading across the edge of my paper. This will, of course, also help prevent it from fraying or anything. That one is a little bit blobby. I'm going to lick my finger so it's wet, and then I can actually push down on it and make it a little bit more formed to the shape I like. There's actually a little bit of super glue on the tip of my finger too, which is insulating me from the hot glue heat. I'm moving the hot glue gun forward as I do these passes to try and squish that hot glue really into the cracks. Because if I went backwards, it'd sort of just create a big bead. There we go. Now we have our base plate right here, and that has completed steps 1 and 2 for the order of operations that we created. So this is going to be able to screw right into our VESA mount, and that's really neat, and it should be fairly strong. Next steps are going to be to create all of the side panels. This was by far the most complicated and important part of the build. Next steps are going to be to create the side panels and the ribs that are going to add some extra support to it. They'll go across the middle here. All of those are written out in my design that I created. It took me about an hour probably writing these designs out. And once we have those ribs on, we can fill it with sand to make it heavy enough for my monitor arm because it's got a minimum weight. And then we can put our top plate on, and those side pieces will have extra little tabs up that then will fold in. Those will secure the laptop in place. So far this is looking really good, and it's actually pretty rigid, so I might not need to put as many ribs in as I thought. Maybe I'll just do 2 that go along here, and then that should secure it a little bit more. As always, pay attention to the orientation of your grain. For this one I had it going longwise because that's the way I wanted it. And yeah, I might add a little super glue around the bottoms here for these screws, where those are going to go through to prevent some of it from getting crushed by the nuts. And yeah, that's that. So look forward to part 2 of this live stream where we'll go over like how all of this is going to come together, and I'll live stream every single part of this build till we get done with it. and we'll just see how that goes. I'm experimenting with different kinds of content on this channel. I might take little clips out of this video and edit them up to make it look a little more interesting. Yeah. So that is that. And as always, if you're here live on a video like this, I will answer your questions in the live stream. And I had a blast. I don't get very much time to make things like this between working at like job and a half and also publishing YouTube videos. So I'm trying to figure out ways to help teach you guys more things while also being able to actually make things myself and not just share quick tips with you. So as always, my name is Eli Tennant. This is Maker Brain, and I pray that the Lord would bless you and keep you. May his face shine brightly upon you today, and I will see you in another video.